Okay, we're live. All right. Okay. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Brock Beard from LastCar.info, and this is our post-race live stream a day after the events over at the Sonoma Raceway and the return of LastCar trackside coverage for 2021. And of course, the return to racing at Sears Point after the race was canceled last year amidst all the world of events going on there. Good to be back into the swing of things. A lot to cover here, and we'll jump right into that here in just a sec here. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed the coverage there over the weekend. I'll admit that, and you can probably tell this from some of the tweets over the weekend there, I was kind of knocking a bit of the rust off there. I still don't know, quite honestly, how I thought that was Chase Briscoe with Austin Dillon instead of Anthony Alfredo. And then, of course, Alfredo goes on to have the best run of his career so far, at least into the late stages there before a bit of misfortune. But, hey, it's hopefully, luckily we're doing 2 races in a row here. So it'll be good here for the next round as well. So, but yeah, first and foremost, I was very relieved with, how the weekend went, and that just the atmosphere in general, even with the limited capacity, with only 33% of the total capacity in the stands, everybody that was there was in really great spirits. The track staff, as always, were fantastic. And I thought the race was pretty competitive and entertaining. It was surprised that it kind of devolved into a bunch of these late race restarts, because we really haven't seen that at the track in the last few years. So that was kind of an interesting turn of events there as well. But yeah, I mean, a lot to certainly talk about there with all that at the same time. So it was. I really enjoyed getting back there for sure. We had, my goodness, getting used to being back in the media center in general and all that. I mean, the media center itself, they redesigned the inside of it there, so it was like all one level, and you get a better view of parts of the track there. And it was still, as always, it was in the same location, so it was pretty close to the garage area, which worked pretty well this time around. But yeah, quite honestly, yeah, I think the first thing to really talk about from the race is that when I was looking at Twitter during the event, one thing I noticed was how frustrated most people were with the broadcast. And I haven't watched the full broadcast yet. I've seen a couple clips that they showed on the big screen at the track. But yeah, it seemed like people were even more disappointed than usual in the broadcast. And I know a feeling about that, that's been a theme in this show, of course, kind of tracking that, in all 3 of the series, not just Fox and the Cup Series in particular. We talked about the Michael Waltrip thing with the accident at Charlotte. Was it Charlotte, or gosh, Charlotte, back before the 600 there, the accident with Johnny Sauter and everything. So it was really kind of hard to tell at the same time there. But that was kind of the split. I mean, certainly in person, one thing I think was very compelling was just Kyle Larson, of course, dominating the event, working his way up from the back of the pack a couple of times, trying to stay in contention, and ultimately just proving too much even for his teammates there at the end of the race. Still, again, in the late race restarts, kind of bringing in a lot of competitors that we hadn't seen up there that much. I know we mentioned Alfredo, but Corey LaJoie, I was taking the shuttle bus from the media center over to turn 7 during the caution that Quinn Houff brought out towards the end of the race. And, I was kind of surprised. I lost track of how LaJoie got up there and everything. Unfortunately, he got in that tangle at turn 11. And, of course, that's always the Murphy's Law of doing any of these races in person. You kind of go to one end of the track and, maybe nothing's happening there. And then you kind of go somewhere else. And, of course, everything happens over there. But the other good thing with the track there, too, is going from turn 7 to the infield there is pretty much a straight shot. So, but yeah, Ricky Stenhouse just posted a tweet earlier this evening here saying he just wants to put the race in his rearview mirror. Certainly can understand it, given the frustrations the 47 team had on the weekend there. It was a little hard to tell exactly what had happened to the 47 at first. Obviously, when you came around the track and you saw the concrete dust embedded in the passenger side of the car, He had clearly hit something very hard, and it turned out that it was very similar to the Casey Kane wreck a couple years ago. Although Kane's accident, you remember the pictures that it posted from that race, it did a lot more damage to the side of the car, peeled the sheet metal back from that one. In this particular case, it didn't seem to be as much visible damage. However, there was clearly a problem with the right front corner of the car. The way it was sitting coming in, it looked like it had a flat tire. I wasn't even sure it actually did. But they managed to clear the crash clock, which was a compelling kind of turn of events there during the race. The PRN broadcast over the speakers, you could hear, they said, "Oh, Ricky Stenhouse in the garage. He's out of the race." And I'm like, no, he's not. The crew was still working on the engine. The window net was still up. The driver was still inside. Unfortunately, for some reason, the scanner I was using, it couldn't pick up the 47's frequency. I don't know why. At first I assumed they just had radio issues, but I don't know if they're just on channel 2 or something like that during it, but I couldn't hear anything on that. And it wasn't the scanner, because I picked up other channels picked up really clearly, like Tyler Reddick's and Austin Dillon's. So I was talking about the crush panel rubbing on Reddick's car, or Austin Dillon having to change a battery every third of the race. Those came through very clearly, but on the 47, for some reason, it didn't come as clearly. What you could hear, of course, was once the 47 got back out there, the engine just sounded terrible, and he was just running slower and slower. And it wasn't long until there was a big plume of smoke there going into the back entrance of the garage area in turn 11, and the 47 car pulled from the garage. And even then, Stenhouse stayed in the car for quite a while before he climbed out. But I was pretty much the only person back there at the time that it happened. So I'm certainly glad that I was able to be there at the track and catch that happening. Otherwise, I imagine just watching it from the broadcast or from the team PR, it would have been hard to kind of piece all that together. And that's the kind of thing I like to be able to do over at the track and covering these races. And this was a weekend that really, it really felt good just getting back into that and being able to catch those moments along the way. And again, big thanks to Stenhouse for stopping to speak with me. I caught him pretty much right as he was walking out of the car towards the hauler there. Unfortunately, this isn't the first time I've talked to him under these circumstances. In 2017, he finished last driving the Fastenal car there for Roush Fenway Racing. But what was interesting in that particular interview, and I think I mentioned it somewhere before, is that he was like, "Oh man, I was having fun out there. It was great slinging the car around. Seemed to be having a great time." And then ended up getting eliminated in an accident on a restart. And and then ultimately the next week he actually won the race at Daytona. But this time around it was very different. Stenhouse was very blunt, very disappointed in what happened out there. Clearly the team was hustling to try to keep him out there and everything, and hopefully capitalize on somebody else's misfortune. But yeah, just a frustrating set of circumstances. But again, kudos to him. I appreciate him talking to me after the race there as well. So that was certainly much appreciated on that. Also got to speak to Garrett Smithley, which was very interesting. I spoke to him after I got back to the garage area after the conclusion of the race. And he was actually the last person that I interviewed at Fontana back in 2020. The picture I posted way too many times on Twitter now, that was actually taken by folks on Rick Ware's team at the time. That was the last interview I did before the pandemic hit, or at least one in person. Of course, I've done the ones for the Field Filler series since then. But yeah, I mean, he was one of the only drivers that was left by the time I got back to the garage area, and I got to talk to him about the effort with him and Ware. And I told him he was the last person I interviewed. So that was cool. So I put that quote in the article. It was posted just earlier this morning. I was working on the article last night. I should have finished it at the track. I don't know why I didn't just crank it out. I didn't have too much more to add at the point. I think I just wanted to see stuff for the broadcast and see if there's anything else I needed to add. But ultimately, I pretty much didn't add too much more from there. But yeah, I was working on that till about 1 a.m. and I was starting to fall asleep. I pulled it up again today, and there were like so many spelling errors and things that just didn't make sense. I had to just kind of brush it up again and then got it back out there on my break this morning. So that was, that worked out okay. But yeah, it definitely emptied the tank over the weekend for sure. My ears are still kind of feeling kind of warm from all that. I definitely got a little bit of color back at the same time too. But yeah, it was an interesting situation with that. But Smithley was really cool about that, and it was neat talking to him. It was nice that things kind of went full circle. I thought that was a really neat way to kind of close things out that day. And he was he still had the Victory Lane quick oil change sponsorship on the mask and everything. and it was his first run out here. And then, as somebody else pointed out, I think it was Seth Eggert, said that it was his 200th combined NASCAR start over the weekend. It might have been Seth or it might have been David McQueen. I'm trying to remember which one, but he was out there and actually competing in that event, and that was really really cool to see. Especially the fact that, it was the only track really of a lot of the current ones he hadn't competed on. I think he said Nashville, now that they're adding that to the schedule, is one that he still hasn't had real laps on yet. So I guess he's going to mark that off his list, hopefully the next couple weeks. But yeah, I mean, again, it was interesting seeing a lot of it. Another person I would have liked to talk to would be Ben Rhodes after he made his Cup debut. He was in the back of the field for most of it, but not the far back. He was kind of towards the rear of the field in the 77. The Spire Motorsports entry. He seemed to keep the fenders on the car at the least. But apparently he'll be in the Truck Series race this week, so maybe it'll be something that could follow up on when we go to Texas. But I was surprised that Ryan Preece is not in the apparently not going to be in the open race this week, according to at least what Bob Pockris posted, since the open teams aren't necessarily required to compete in that event. Preece, of course, had that bizarre incident that happened over in turn 7. One thing I had a pretty good view of from the stands there. And actually, again, I hadn't really watched the race from that corner probably since 1998 with Jerry Nadeau's move in qualifying there through the corner. But a good view. But you can see the 37 spin out and just this huge cloud erupted, much like the cloud that you had from Noah Gragson's situation. I'm not sure if it comes across well in the two pictures that I posted there. But really, that cloud just came up. The 51 was a couple car lengths behind, had another car in front of him, and just couldn't see. I mean, and you're going so fast as you're coming up through the gears, and you're going downhill, and you're just kind of thinking about the next corner and setting up for it. And he just had that bizarre collision there. Serious damage to the steering of the 51 car. I know that they kind of characterized that to make it look like he was kind of getting back at Preece for the incident there, but I think the car was just completely out of control at that point. They had to use a metal rod just to steer the thing to get it back on the hauler after the race. But yeah, real craziness at the end. That kind of reminded me more of like 1999 or some of these other races around that time period where you'd have multiple wrecks towards the end of it, or a red flag in the case of 99 with Ricky Rudd's wreck in the S's with Ward Burton. Lots of really crazy things that happened at that point. But yeah, it was, I'm glad that Cody was okay, and Ryan for that matter as well. But yeah, couldn't get a quote on that on the 37. That would have been interesting to find out. But, then again, I remember trying to talk to Ryan Preece back in 2019 after he got disqualified for jumping the start in the K&N race there. And so, I'm not sure if he would have had the same reaction or not at the point there. But really, the other thing too, I haven't watched the full broadcast yet, so maybe this is another thing people are concerned about. It was interesting just who was dropping to the back of the field in those last couple of cautions. After you had, again, the great runs by some of these teams, people like Michael McDowell were in the top 10 towards the end of it. McDowell, I saw when he was going through 7 the final time, he and Alex Bowman touched wheels going into 7 and the entrance of the S's. McDowell had 2 wheels off the track, but apparently kept it going straight. Unfortunately, was ultimately turned by Daniel Suarez in turn 11, and that dropped him well back in the running order. Suarez himself almost had a top 10. I believe that would have been I guess it wouldn't be the first for Trackhouse, but the first since, I guess, the Bristol dirt race there, that breakout run they had there, but was very close to that as well. And, the 2311 team, of course, was competitive in the race too, despite a litany of problems the 23 had. I was just noting how they had just a little bit of light damage to the left rear corner of the car when he came down pit road. Then all of a sudden, just a couple laps later, the tire cuts down, and then, of course, it curls all that under. And it was a good thing he was able to get that car all the way back to pit road. But pretty impressive there that he was able to work his way back in there, especially given that Wallace has struggled so much on the road courses. So it was a good turnaround there for that. And Scott Heckert, even in the other the trilogy of the new teams competing in the sport this year that hadn't been there the last time the Cup Series was out there, I thought he handled himself very well out there. One of the best battles I saw at the back of the field, and I should have got a picture of it, but I was just kind of gobsmacked by seeing it. Old Josh Bilicki was putting on a clinic there racing Quinn Houff, and the two of them were side by side through turn 11 and off the corner, and we're still side by side when they kind of left my view going past the starting line. That happened right before the Stenhouse caution happened. So there was good racing at the back of the field. You saw a lot, one thing that kind of traded the last place spot so much in the race. as you had so many different competitors that were having mechanical issues. I don't know how well this was covered in the event, but it seemed like one person after another right from the beginning. Lap 3, you had Christopher Bell come in. The car just coasted in. You could just hear nothing as the rest of the field went by. They kind of looked under one of the flaps on the hood, then lifted the hood up. They jiggled something, probably a loose plug wire or something. I wasn't able to get that confirmed, but refired the thing, got it back out there, and so kudos to him. Again, Tyler Reddick and Austin Dillon mentioned their issues there that dropped them back. Eric Jones, I completely lost track of him at the end of the race. I didn't realize he had worked his way up to the 11th spot because when I left him down on pit road, I just kept hearing him sputter going into 11, and he was kind of by himself like a lot of these others. I thought it was going to be the same thing that happened to Stenhouse. Something was going to let go. But I guess, again, maybe a battery issue or a loose plug wire or whatever it was that they were able to fix. They got him back out there, and that's the thing. You got to just keep fighting. One thing that happens in this race, and even now, 90 laps on the old configuration is still an even longer race than we used to have there with the 74 lap one. It's enough time to kind of get back into it. And in those extra, 25, 24 laps there, we really saw that at the end of the race. And that was really interesting to see. We also saw some drop off from a number of drivers. Of course, when I last left you in the Friday show, Kevin Harvick was my fantasy pick for that. Boy, was I off by just a little bit. Lastbro was sitting next to a Kevin Harvick fan in the stands that was wearing the shirt, and he said he wasn't picking him for the race. I just had the wrong strategy. Seemed like it was going to kind of work out at the end. He was in the top 10, and then that put him in just the right spot to get completely creamed in turn 11 in the LaJoie situation, and William Byron dropping out. I mean, again, it's surprising how little, bit of damage on the nose of these cars just completely eliminates them these days. And I wonder if it's different by manufacturer, because the Fords always have that thing where when they run into something, the nose kind of has this notch that kind of steps in, like if the radiator's lower or something. Because even Kevin Harvick, when he was in that wreck, I thought for sure he was out, because that always seems to be instant, you're just eliminated. But then with the Chevys, like with Byron, he was just immediately out of the race. There's no way he's going to be able to keep going. But yeah, Harvick was able to keep going, and other competitors back there. So, I mean, just kind of a crazy situation, but very surprised by it. But yeah, definitely lost some points there when my brother picked Larson for the victory. I just picked up this shirt over at the track to rub it in his face, like, hey, look how many points I capitalized on, even though he picked Kyle Busch and only gained about 10 points on him in that one. And then, of course, he picks Kyle Larson in this one and just utterly dominates the race. So that's the reason I went over to 7 also at the end. Once last place was sewn up, I haven't watched the race from the stands in a real long time. And getting back to Sonoma here for the return to the race there, I couldn't resist the opportunity to do so once at least my work on that part of it was done. So I hope you didn't mind that there at the end. Ultimately, I think it worked out pretty well because, again, we were able to get a good view of what happened there at the Ryan Preece, Cody Ware situation. It was very clear that the 37 just pulled back on the track in front of the 51. Nothing that Cody could have done. Still got back to the garage in time to see a lot of the carnage on some of the cars further back in the lineup to see what happened. Really, and really at that point, when you get to the garage area, I kind of realized I'm not really a big fan of the whole 2-day show thing. I think that's my ultimate verdict of the actual pacing from this. And again, it's nothing with the track or anything like that. I mean, the folks there, they don't have any control over that. But for NASCAR going forward, it just everything on Sunday in particular felt like it was like the entire weekend, Friday through Sunday, just compressed into it, which is basically what it is. They get the cars out on the grid. They fire the engines out there to kind of test them and stuff. The drivers kind of filter out there. And then the race just starts and you're just kind of thrown right in the middle of it. Even the pomp and circumstance of some other elements, wasn't there. We didn't have the outdoor drivers meeting, for example, which has been kind of a fixture in the past. That's where I usually do the pictures of the die cast on the tracks and stuff. That just wasn't even a thing this year. And then they had the victory lane moved from the traditional spot right next to the grandstands out into the middle of the drag strip, which was kind of bizarre too. I know the regulations are what they are, and they're working with them as best they can. I think, again, the track was doing a good job with it, but I'm certainly looking forward to next year's running with the return of practice and qualifying, which they're going to need when they're bringing the next gen car out there, and just figuring out how it's going to be handling on all of these tracks. But it'll be interesting to see. Got to say, I'm looking forward to seeing, kind of seeing the replay again and what happened with not Kevin Harvick, with Chase Elliott and Kyle Larson. The radio broadcast of it was pretty exhilarating. The fact that they were just kind of, Larson was just kind of almost running him over there. And then you had these multiple restarts at the end that reminded me of Casey Kane versus Tony Stewart, and Kane having to sweat out these last few double file restarts there to pull off the victory there. Very similar to this. Although now with teammates out there, it was I could swear one of those was going to probably end up with one of them spinning off the nose of the other. But ultimately that didn't play out. And Kyle Larson now officially your winner of the race. Technical inspection was concluded before I left the track there yesterday. And Ricky Stenhouse Jr., your last place finisher. Thank you, Beast of Metal, for the super chat here as well. Speaking of 2311, did you happen to see Hamlin's comments from a couple weeks ago saying that it may make more sense to run a second team as an open entry instead of purchasing a second charter? I did hear that, and I'm still chewing on that. I don't know how that's a very good question, because so much of the charter thing, and I made no secret of not being a fan of it. So much of the charter system is completely secretive, and it's really hard to kind of evaluate like the cost effectiveness of it. One thing that my brother was asking me, and I thought was also kind of similar to your point on this, is why don't we see a lot of the other big teams enter open cars to test their new talent, especially with all these new drivers coming up through the ranks in Xfinity and trucks? It seems like you're trying to get guys like Ben Rhodes and these other guys in there to give them a test and see what they can do. Why aren't we seeing more examples of like what Penske's done already with the entry, the number 33 car for Austin Cindric? They've been able to do that. Why aren't we seeing Hendrick do that? Why aren't we seeing Stuart Haas do that? Why aren't we seeing Gibbs do that when they have these extra spots in the field? Now, I'm of two minds of that. I think in the one breath, it's probably because it's not only too expensive to do it, they just don't get compensated well enough for it. It's probably to the point that they would just lose entirely too much money and probably another car in the process. But again, it's still surprising because you have these spots open. This car is going to be phased out at the end of the year, so there's really no disadvantage to kind of getting these guys some laps in these cup races. Yes, it's going to be in a different car, so they're going to have to kind of get used to that too. I don't know if that's their concern, but I think it kind of dovetails with your question, Beast of Metal, because why? I guess your question is more towards like the dollars and cents of it. Like if it would make sense to do an open entry versus a chartered one. I think what that could mean, even in the case of 2311, is just seeing if they can even handle two cars. And if it's an open car that's not required to run all the races, then maybe they could stick with the one ride. I was saying even last week that I think for both Trackhouse and 2311, they're probably their best shot is to really perfect their one car operation and kind of build that organization as best they can, and then expand to two cars a little bit later on, kind of like what JTG Darty Racing has done, or other organizations like that. I think what gets these teams in a lot of trouble is they expand too quickly and they immediately just collapse. We saw this with the likes of Swan Racing when they took over Inception Motorsports. Inception Motorsports had great qualifying runs with David Stremme. That's why he had all those memes back when I was doing the starting grids back then, because they kept making the race. And it was like, wow, why isn't anybody talking about these guys? And then they get bought up by the Swan Group. They did this whole 2 or 3 car lineup with all rookies and stuff. And it just completely collapsed. They didn't get any sponsorship. And I don't want to see that happen with 2311 or any of these guys, which is why I think it's interesting you're not really hearing about this with Trackhouse. And there's even been teams like Starcom Racing, Derek Cope's team, where they had 2 cars at one point and then scaled back to just focus on the 00 and just do the best they can with that. So I think that's really, kind of the angle to go with, especially with the new car. Now, again, I think the other thing to look at, too, is what are the restrictions going into next year with the car limit number there? Like if you have if it's going to be a limit of 7 cars per team, is that going to encourage people to start extra cars and actually fill out these 40-car fields? Or, heck, better yet, having more cars than starting spots and actually have qualifying means something more than just pit position. So There's a lot of things to look at on that, and it's a good question. I really don't know. It would be great to get a lot of the inside information as to how that system works. But everything from purse distribution to to anything else, we're just not privy to. And all we can tell is that it's very telling when you have these open spots. Again, Sears Point had the shortest field it's ever had with 37 entries. That you can have 3 other cars out there of anybody. If it's a big team, small team, or somewhere in the middle, and they're not getting filled, it must just mean that it's and it's not a matter of distance, because you're having races on the East Coast right next to Charlotte. Even the 600 had its shortest field, where it's like right next to the shops. So I know it's not a matter of travel or travel expenses. So, it would be interesting to find out, but I don't know. I would love to ask Denny about a follow-up on that and be like, well, why is that? Yeah, why would it be better to do an open team versus a charter? Are you just not sure of the performance of the team, or are you just not sure if it's going to pay itself off? It could go any number of directions. So yeah, it's a good question. Also, speaking of 2311, I see Kyle, you're in the chat here. Kyle Foster, don't mind me putting you on point here. Kudos to you for Kyle for finding out that Michael Jordan was at the track there. That was a great scoop there at the track. I miss seeing him. I was out. I was speaking with some other folks in the paddock when that was happening. I was trying to find him during the lineup. I thought he was going to be over by the 23 car during the command to start engines and the national anthem, but I didn't see him there. They ferried him off someplace else there. But really cool to see him at the track there. We had a lot of actually had a lot of celebrity presence at the track there. I mean, they've had Guy Fieri and Kyle Shanahan and stuff there at the track too. I guess everybody, it's nice to see people still traveling back to Northern California and that it still has that valued spot on the schedule where even people in the media are like drawing straws as to who gets to go there because they want to be able to do the wine tasting and see San Francisco and all the other stuff out there. So that was good to see. I gotta say, it was still weird going out there as somebody that no longer lives in the immediate Bay Area anymore. I'm still in California, but further east from back then. But it was a nice visit, and again, kudos to the folks at the track and everybody. Everybody was very very cool and very happy to be there. And the local boy winning the race there was certainly exciting there at the same time. Yeah, and Kyle, that's a good point too. Yeah, he had the same issue with the Mid-Ohio race. I mean, I thought for sure we were going to get AJ Allmendinger in the field, but yeah, I completely forgot about the Mid-Ohio race being the same weekend. That was certainly a factor, at least not getting the colleague team out there. But that'll be another one to kind of look at. But yeah, the charter system, I think they're just kind of creating still kind of this knife fight system where everybody's like, okay, there's only 36 charters. There's a finite number. There's a glass ceiling on how many people can be in there and guaranteed a spot in every race, even if a whole lot of open teams enter, which hasn't happened yet. That's been a just complete bust there on that. But I don't know. Hopefully something works out on that. But I'm not sure how that will work out with 2311. Let's see. So let me get back to the lineup here and the actual results. We talked about Stenhouse, Quinn Howe, Byron, Cody Ware, Ryan Newman spinning off the last corner and dropping back to the 33rd spot at the finish there. That's unfortunate. So many times that's happened. That last lap, your tires are at their most worn. You're just trying to get to the finish line, and you may be halfway around that track, but the S's in turn 11 could be just as treacherous as ever. That was certainly the case this time around. And shuffled the running order. I could have sworn a lot of the middle of the pack of the field was different after I was at the track there. I thought that originally had with Suarez still in the top 10 and Bubba Wallace a little closer to it, but things got shuffled there at the end. I thought Harvick was 20th and then he ended up 22nd. So, again, that's how quickly things can change, and it becomes a challenge for the folks scoring the event too. So that was kind of crazy. Let's see. Chase Briscoe, Keselowski 15th. I mean, decent run there. He's usually struggled a lot at Sears Point. That was definitely the case there. Denny Hamlin in the 8th spot. Ross Chastain keeping, again, wow. I mean, one of the other stories that we kind of followed from COTA, that great run he had in the rain, he's able to do it in the dry there too, and he can run on the dust if any on the track there too. Great seventh place finish for him. Yeah, I thought it was a very competitive race. I was very engaged in what was happening from there. I think, again, as I've said before, a lot of times the challenge of what I do, looking at the back of the field, you kind of miss a lot of what's happening up front. And this was definitely a case of that, especially with the strategy. After the first few laps, and you had people coming in just before the end of the stage cautions and all that, it was anybody's guess who was doing what. Maybe that was a frustration with the broadcast. I don't know how well they covered that, but I would hope that they would do it at least as well as the Indy 500 had a couple weeks ago. It sounds like I'm not really holding my breath on that. Yeah, really interesting race. I'm not a fan of the cautions still at the stages. I think even with a 90 lap race, even though the third stage I felt was a nice, healthy length, it was basically almost the length of I think it was about the length of the K&N race or the Arca Menards West Series race on Saturday, which was enough to kind of, split things up a little bit. Because you had but it was, if you're going to have stages, just have the stage points be awarded if you're going to have that still, and just keep the race going green, because, it just diminishes the value of the actual race win. I'd forgotten how much of an effect that has had until, we watching the Indy 500 really last week, and then having just, of course, that race being prestigious already, it means a lot, but also the fact that, they're not doing some ridiculous cautions for no reason. You can have a race go at just a blistering clip, just testing the focus of these drivers, and if they can still kind of maintain that consistency lap after lap. NASCAR needs to kind of get back to that again, I think. Again, just treat it like that the Gillette halfway challenge. Back when they did that in the 90s, and they would have a bonus if you led the halfway lap, they didn't throw a caution for that. They just, did the cross flags, and then they just kind of kept going. It was just another lap in the race. So, hopefully something else, kind of gets looked at there. But again, it's it's one other thing on the list that I'm sure to look at there too. Let's see. Any other competitors here? Yeah, Priest. Yeah, Alfredo. That was the heartbreaker there. I was very impressed. The first thing I did when I got to the track there, I saw like the scoring there. Seeing the 7 up there, they had like the old numbers used to actually show who was in which car. So they used like the old Tommy Baldwin number for LaJoie's car, and some of the other numbers were like really old. They had a Phoenix Racing number for Cody Ware's car. So yeah, it was interesting seeing some of those a little further up the rankings there. But that'll be something else to look at. All right. So let me also talk about the K&N. I keep calling it the K&N race. That's going to take a while. I got to have to start a jar to put a coin in every time I call it the wrong thing. The Arca West Series race was interesting. For those of you who haven't seen it yet, you may want to disregard this part of it if you don't want any spoilers on it there. But, I didn't really post as many tweets for the back half of the race there as the front half, because the battle for last was pretty intense in that one. Certainly the key element of that one had to be the situation with Rod Nealon's car, the number 68 car that was missing the start of the race. They were right near the end of pit road, and then the radio guys, to their credit, they may have missed the Stenhouse thing on Sunday, but they were actually tracking the Nealon thing pretty well. It was like right in front of them there. And the fact that the car was still on jack stands, and they broke an input shaft on the transmission, and had been working on it basically the entire 90 minutes since practice had ended to the start of the race, and the thing was still up there. And they're doing the national anthem and and everything else up to that point, and all that, and the command to start engines happened. It seemed like they waited a little bit longer to get the engines fired, and that's about where you see that clip that I posted here on this channel. If you haven't seen it, I definitely recommend it, because it was just amazing. I was just wondering, okay, are they going to even get out there? Is like an official going to come in and say, no, you can't start the race or anything? Or are they going to wait like a couple laps? Like, I don't know if I had enough battery on the camera to catch the whole thing. But kudos to the team. They got the car off the stands. They, the driver was putting his Hans device on and getting in the car, and they added an extra lap so that he could join the back of the field there. And then at the same time, then you had it was crazy because you had that happen. He gets into the car, he starts the race. Zane Smith is out there, running running David Mayhew's car on that side of the field, and suddenly the engine just blows up on the pace laps. He said he had no warning on the command to start engines. It wasn't anything like that. He gets towed in with all the oil on the inside of the right side of the hood. And for some reason, he's still classified ahead of Nealand, who actually took the green flag, and his car broke down on the first lap out on the track. So you had that kind of situation there too. But again, I guess it was just at that point, you had two different drivers that didn't complete a lap. And they just kind of classified one as lower, I guess, just by starting position, if nothing else. But that was kind of a weird decision. I thought for sure it was going to end up being like the Zane Smith one. But I appreciate Smith for and Nealand for that matter for talking to me on that. I did a short feature on that on Saturday that's already on the website. I posted it the same day as the Xfinity Series article from Mid Ohio. But that was really interesting, and I ended up talking to a lot more of the drivers from the West Series race this year, which I really enjoyed. I like how. I mean, as much as I'm not crazy about how small the field was, what was great about it was the entire field was in a very small section of pit road, just that forward half of it. For those of you who haven't been to the track there, it's basically split into two parts on either side of the media center. And you have like one half, then there's the entrance to the garage area, which has this really steep hill that's really difficult for drivers to push their cars up there. And then the other half is like, the rest of the field from there. It's much longer and goes all the way to pretty much the exit at turn 11. But pretty much all the K&N guys could fit in this one small section there. So if anything happened, you can kind of, at a glance, see what was going on. And so that was really interesting. But spoke with Dave Smith, caught up with him again. He is actually hoping to run a Cup Series race on the road courses with the next gen car next year. Nothing's settled yet. And I know a little bit more about what he's looking at, but I can't confirm anything yet. But I do know that he's looking into it. So that would be exciting too, given the fact that he took me for laps around the track back in 2019, and got to go out back in the West race again this time around. Unfortunately, had a bit more of a struggle than he did in 2019. But Dave Smith running in a potential next gen race would be interesting to see along the ways there too. But it's going to be. It was interesting talking to a lot of these competitors, and of course, the showstopper had to be Bobby Hillis Jr.'s number 27 car there. I know that one picture came out kind of weird of him in the driver's uniform. I don't know what happened with that, but his car though was just an absolute stunner. The pictures I took as many pictures as I could, but any one of them just really didn't do it justice. The shade of the yellow and the orange were like so close together. It was like blinding, and then it had the yellow rims and everything, and that was just something he always likes to do with his cars. And just makes them really stand out. His backup that he had on the hauler, I guess, had the reverse of that, where it was like orange with or yellow with orange accents instead of orange with yellow. But absolutely love that. Anything with Dayglow orange. I mentioned comparisons to Robbie Gordon's CD2 car from 2000. If you look that up on Jayski's page, it's the same effect. It's like when you use older film, it comes out dark, kind of like pumpkin orange, but in person, I will guarantee you it wasn't like that. It was like the most brilliant, almost like yellowish orange. It feels silly saying this to somebody that's kind of colorblind, but that's how bright the color has to be for me to see it. So that's kind of how that shakes out. But that was really cool to see. I think that was kind of interesting thing to check out. So the West Series guys. Chase Briscoe, of course, cruised to victory in that one. Although Dylan Lupton put on a very good effort there. Good to see him back out there after he made his Cup debut at Sears Point not too long ago, running out there in the 4-car. And Todd Souza getting the Ernie Irvin penalty for jumping the start and getting back out there. Real interesting battle at the back of the field there for that one. But unfortunate for Rod Nealand. But I appreciated him talking to me as well. And again, his quotes are in that article as well that are on the LastCar.info page. So all of that is there. Really, and the other thing that was interesting, of course, with that is they had practice and qualifying merged together for the West Series. And so you had a situation where a lot of drivers were having mechanical issues. that 52 car, Ryan Philpott's car that backed into one of the walls. He was in there just banging the rear clip back straight again with his crew, and they taped it back up and got it back out there. Dave Smith that I mentioned earlier, he had an axle cap come off the right rear, and then the axle just flew out of the car, so he had to coast it back in and get him going again. So, and again, these are drivers from all over the field. I mean, we talk about Zane Smith's problem. He was like, what, top 5 at the start? So yeah, it was an interesting race, and it made me more interested to look at more of those events in the coming weeks and years as well. But of course, we're heading to Texas this weekend, and we'll get into more of that as well as we look forward. Let's see. Alex Viveros, thank you for the super chat there. Larson needs a contract extension. Well, I think it'd be hard to argue against that at this point. If they don't give him a contract extension, they're going to be finishing second to whoever picks him up. So that's going to be, that's going to be something that they're going to want to have to work on there. Let's see. Let me check here. Yeah, the ARCA West race was pretty good, but yeah, the races, excuse me. Yeah, the races were further back in the pack because he had a lot of cautions in that one that definitely slowed it up a lot. And I don't know how that'll come across when they do the rebroadcast this week, but that'll be interesting. Let's see. What do I can think of? Open. RD Fox 76. You haven't put any stress on the lump on the pace laps. Only way, on the pump. Okay, all I can think of is the blow up is if your oil pump belt hopped off the pulley. I mean, yeah, that could be the case. It was a lot of fluid that was under. If you're talking about Zane Smith's car, he had a lot of fluid under the hood, but something just went sideways there too. So that was pretty crazy there also. Yeah. Alexander Luft, thoughts on Terry Labonte? Any news on Terry Labonte? Is he? I haven't heard anything new in the news or anything on him or anything like that, but I think he's awesome. The Iceman, certainly. 2003 Southern 500 winner. When you win your first race at Darlington, it puts you in pretty elite company, and Terry Labonte in that group there as well, for sure. Oh, you're talking about the 2013 race where Paulie Haraka piled into Alex Kennedy? Yeah, that was weird. Yeah, Rudiman checked up in front of Kennedy. That was a pretty crazy one. So, yeah. Not just your opinion on it. Okay, yeah. No, yes. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, really great stuff, though. I mean, again, good. And I don't know. I mean, it was I guess it was just a relief more than anything. I was just a relief that they actually got the event when you're actually at the track and getting checked in and all that stuff. I think at that point it's like, oh my gosh, it's real. They're actually going to do the event here. I think actually probably in that standpoint, that was probably the best time to do a 2-day show where they just kind of jump right into the races. I mean, why not? Why delay it any longer? So I guess there's that. So I don't know. But yeah, I am still anxious for practice and qualifying to come back. I guess they're still not doing it. Excuse me. Like I said, I was up real late last night. I thought about doing the show on Sunday, and I'm like, boy, that's not going to work because I was at 1:00. I was still doing the article, and I'm like, I had to make sure to carefully put my computer away because otherwise you're just going to slide off the bed. But that was all that. But man, oh man, yeah. Fantastic stuff. I thought it was, I mean, good race for Larson, and he's going to be a force to be reckoned with. Now we got, the All-Star race coming up. He's got to be a favorite in that too. And he's really found a good place for himself there with Hendrick Motorsports. And I really thought, and again, I ramped this up on Friday. I was kind of starting to say this earlier, that Sears Point has often been in a situation where if somebody comes in with a streak, it just kind of snaps that streak immediately. Another one I didn't even think of was David Rudiman. After he won the 600, he struggled big time at Sears Point, like right after that. So, again, Casey Kane in 2006, all kinds of different drivers have problems there. So, but at the end of the day, you can't, you've had I guess you've had now so many different winners and so many other competitors there. You can't really have everybody struggle in that sense, because then who is going to end up front? So yeah, that was kind of when that when that showed up. So let's see. Oh, thank you for linking the story, Kyle. Right on. Yeah, I was late getting that thing up, but I got it up today. So that was a fun one to put together. Let's see here. Yeah, I think that's most from the Cup there and the West Series. We'll touch briefly on the Mid Ohio race here as well. I haven't watched the full thing yet. When I got to the track on Saturday, it was already 4 laps into the race. It was hard to figure out how long it would take to actually get there. But yeah, we got there. I got all turned around at the checkpoints and stuff. That was kind of a thing that was going on. But that was more on my side than anybody else's, just kind of understanding where to go and everything. That had been kind of moved around a little bit since 2019. But once we got in there, yeah, I mean, Noah Gragson was already out of the race, and proved to be, I think, pretty much that's about the shortest possible article you'll probably see on the site now. You know, if you have a driver that has finished last very recently, so you've already done a profile on him and a review of his season. A situation there where, you know, a driver falls out in the first corner on the first lap of a race with no practice or qualifying. It's very hard to come up with a whole lot of content on that. And even at a track where it hasn't had a whole lot of runnings of the race. Yeah, that ended up turning out to be a pretty short article. But actually, that worked out well, because my original plan was to get there before the start of the Xfinity race, watch a lot of that, at least until the last place thing was settled, kind of listen to the radio and the media center and get that done. But of course, when that was already settled, I was like, well, okay, that basically led to me covering the West Series race a lot more than I thought I was going to, which turned out to be pretty good. I think that, you know, what I talked to like 5 or 6 different drivers in that piece on there, so I'm glad that came out well. So that's really a big thing that I like to do at the track there. I like to kind of make it in such a way where, you know, it's not. I don't get too regimented in what I want to do. Like if there's something, like if there's a certain driver or something that I'm kind of interested in talking to, you know, I'll kind of aim for that. But I'm not going to be like, okay, I'm going to get there, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this, and then every time I do that, something else happens, and it just completely gets turned on its ear. So I've made that pretty flexible. Same thing for Texas this weekend. I haven't really set a firm idea of what I'm going to do during this. I mean, certainly do the last place battles for the Truck Series, Xfinity Series, the All-Star Race, and the Open. But beyond that, who else I talk to and everything, I mean, that's one of the greatest things about this. I never know who I'm going to talk to. You know, it could be anyone. Is it going to be Chase Elliott, or is it going to be, you know, Garrett Smithley or something? And again, no insult to anybody. It's just like, you know, it could be a driver that gets a lot of media attention or not much at all. And, you know, again, the Stenhouse thing I think was fascinating. PRN concluded that they were out. Fox, I never saw them back there. Big kudos to the track. Also, I mean, speaking of Fox, you know, one thing I thought was really neat was, and again, this is another consequence of short fields, even though I'm not crazy about short fields. Because of that, they have these random empty stalls on pit road, even at Sears Point, as long as it is. And the one that I filmed a couple shots, I think there was one shot I had of Chris Buescher's car leaving pit road, and I have video of William Byron doing a pit stop too. I don't know if I posted that, but that was where I was. There was an empty stall between the two of them. And it was also near where Ross Chastain and Christopher Bell's stalls were. So anytime Eric Almirola was also pretty close to that area. I think that was a group like 2 or 3 on each side. That was a great spot. And Jamie Little was there for a lot of that with the camera guys. And then Wendy Venturini was there for PRN. And that was kind of their spot. And pretty much that was where I was for like the first like 40 laps of the race. Like I was going to kind of wander around a little bit. My thought was to go around the track, but I didn't have a clear idea for that. But I ended up pretty much just staying there, because to the left of me, there's the big old drag racing tower there in the infield, and there's a horizontal, like rectangular shaped screen on the top of that keeps track of a lap counter and has a screen on it to kind of show what's happening. And then there's another big screen next to it that's even more for like the main grandstands, so you have that view. That was particularly helpful, because the big thing in this one, compared to the last time that I've actually covered any races, in between then and now is when the FanVision scanner company just completely conked out. I mean, of course, they had races with no fans. They didn't have any money coming in, and unsurprisingly, they ended up having to shut down that program. So I went back to using just a traditional scanner, which was fine. I mean, that was okay working with, but I was so used to using like the thing that had the leaderboard and also the thing that shows the videos. You can actually see the broadcast a little bit clearer, and you can do that on your phone and everything. But some tracks don't have great Wi-Fi reception. This was a lot better this year at Sears Point. It probably was because of the reduced capacity, but I really thought that the capacity didn't seem that much less than it was in 2019. At least that's how I remember it. But then again, it's 2 years ago, so my memory might be just fuzzy on that. But yeah, I mean, it was, especially going from the back of the field, I kind of had to do it the old school way. And that was kind of the fun part of it. You just kind of wait for people to go by and then look at, where the last place runner is and track that each time by. So that was kind of cool. And that might be kind of more my strategy from one race to the next. I did something similar to that the last time I did the Southern 500, at least for the start of the race. When that race, when it started, it was like 2 a.m. or something like that, East Coast time. That's where I was. I was like by the garage entrance, near pit road thereabouts, but near kind of the midway down the front stretch pit road. And you could see out of it kind of a gap to where the cars are coming by. You wouldn't see the back stretch very well, but you could see that pretty well. I might be scoping out for a similar spot at Texas to see what could work out there. But yeah, we'll certainly find out at that point. We're gonna have plenty of time to do it, and plenty of opportunities. Probably maybe even change up the approach from one race to the next between Trucks, Xfinity, and the Cup Series. But yeah, that's kind of the way I kind of approached it there. And yeah, I was really pleased with how close I was able to get to it. I was surprised. I kind of just worked my way in there, and I'm not going to get in anybody's way on the pit crew, of course. Just I'm kind of guiding off of what Jamie and Wendy are doing and everything, and doing that. So yeah, and just kind of getting in there and doing the thing and putting the tweets out. And some pictures would load a little slower, so they come in a little out of order, but it was way better than the Wi-Fi reception at Auto Club. That was that was a real nightmare there, but hopefully they fix that up in the process when they're looking at changing that track up. So we'll find out. Let's see. Moving door numbers to the front windshield. Oh, don't trigger me, man. Come on. Let's see. Yeah, everyone piled up in turn one. Yeah, that'd be an interesting last place battle if it was like a 2001 Winston reenactment. Wires crossed there. So we got like different stories to follow up on going forward. But looking forward to covering the All-Star race. Looking forward to summing up the Sears Point event there. But yeah, just really more than anything, just relief after going back out there and checking out what happened at the track there. So I hope you guys enjoyed that for sure. I certainly enjoyed sharing it and just getting a little bit of normality back, which I'm sure we're all looking to accomplish in one way or another there. So, but we got plenty more coming up. I got plenty of room still on the magnet that's going to be on the door for the rental car where we're out in Texas. So I got that still packed up. It'll be interesting to see. And I guess Timmy Hill's doing well in the fan vote poll. So I guess that means that Motorsports Business Management will be there after they weren't in Sears Point. So that'll be good. And I'll be anxious to know what Carl Long thought of the video. If you had a chance to see it, I haven't talked to him since it got posted. I figured I'd probably just save going there face to face. I actually have some follow-up questions that people were suggesting from the comments section. People had some ideas about subjects that probably need to be kind of dug into a little bit more, which I thought was strange at first because it's already a 2.5 hour video. If you want the video to be longer than Titanic, I guess we could do that, but I don't know about that. But like I say, the Snyder cut of that one would probably be half a day. That'll be interesting. That'll be kind of something that I kind of want to look into. That's the other thing too I didn't mention. I touched on it a little bit on Twitter. When I got my credentials, I got that picked up on Sunday because you had to do the ARCA credentials and the NASCAR credentials were like a separate process each day under the new protocols. I was able to swing by the Starcom hauler and Derek Cope was right there. So I was able to do another interview with him for the book. There were a couple of details that I still, again, kind of similar to the Carl Long thing, stuff that needed to kind of be built up a little bit more that was only kind of touched on. And he was very, very helpful with his time there. We spoke for probably, I think it was probably about 20 minutes or so there over at the Starcom hauler. And that was really cool. So that was good to see him again. That's the first time I've interviewed him since Fontana in 2020. I've just been working on the book just by itself, getting secondary resources really since then. So that's coming along pretty well. Don't have anything to update on the publisher front or release date yet, but we're getting there along the way. There's kind of a lot of plates spinning here between that and now the Andy Belmont episode of Rise of the Field Fillers, which is episode 8. Don't have a release date for that. I wouldn't expect that until sometime in July at least, but we're coming up on July pretty quick here at this point. Some more news on that coming up, but a lot of interesting things coming up. But right now the focus is certainly on the Texas weekend here, and we fly out Wednesday. We'll be checking out some of apparently they're doing some other activities and stuff around the track leading up to the race. So we're going to check out some of those. We're also going to kind of take in some of the sites as we always do. We do our out-of-state trips. You recall our epic saga that went from Mosport all the way down to Darlington in 2019. I still can't believe we pulled that one off, but that was a tremendous experience. This one will be a little bit easier to work with. We're going to basically be in and around the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and if you are in the Dallas-Fort Worth area during that time, definitely give me a holler, and we'll see if we can meet up at the track or anything like that. I've got to meet up with a few fans over at the track. One of you guys, actually, I was able to sell my extra ticket to after my credentials got approved there, and it sounds like they had a great time. So that was good to hear. So that'll be interesting to see. But very relieved that earlier today my credentials were officially approved. I got a hold of the people at the track there. Appreciate them getting a hold of me. Because I was thinking in the back of my mind, it's like, wait, I hope I didn't delete the email, because I deleted a lot of emails over the weekend. But I was like, okay, I'll make sure I didn't delete anything like that. But they're really cool about that. So we're all set on that. I picked that up on the weekend, and we're gonna get up and do it again. So a little bit unusual here, but of course, the Sears Point track just 2 hours down the road from where I am right now. So just kind of here for a couple days. I got work tomorrow, so we're going to kind of finish that up and then pack up, and we're going to be heading out. I'm going to see if I can I'm going to bring one of my webcams with me, because at Fontana, I really like doing this. Somehow I was able to get the hotel Wi-Fi to work kind of well enough to do a live stream from there. If I could do that again at Texas, I think that would be kind of neat. Maybe do something on the road or something there. So that would be pretty cool. But other than that, worst case scenario, we do another show. We got back from the trip, but I'd like to do something more, at the time. I'm already feeling doing the discussion now. It's it was already, it's hard to keep it as fresh, even just after a day after. But because right now at this point, I'm just more, just relaxed than anything. I don't know if that comes across, but. Certainly just relieved on that one. So that'll be cool. We do have show and tell and some trivia questions to wrap up the show here today, because I know we didn't do that last Friday. So we'll certainly have that. And it should be pretty pretty cool. So I thought there was a good crowd at I seen your question there, Andrew. I think it was a good crowd that we had at Sears Point this weekend. A big enough crowd that after the race, you really kind of had to kind of tiptoe through the crowd when you're going through the tunnels and stuff. Like, it was enough to do that. 33% capacity at Sears Point is actually a pretty good sized crowd. And I was kind of surprised, actually. There were some people that were actually leaving early. When I got to turn 7 to meet up with Lastbro, there were people actually that were actually leaving the race while it was under caution for the Quinn Houff thing. And I'm like, man, this is far from over. And there was all kinds of crazy stuff that happened. But I get that not everybody's, the same, not everybody's a motorsports fan. Maybe they're just kind of checking it out, and they're just kind of like, okay, let's beat the traffic. But traffic wasn't bad at all. We were able to get to the Applebee's in Vallejo for dinner afterwards there pretty quick after I finished, most of my article there. But that was about 7:30 Pacific time, so about 10:30 Eastern for you guys, or some of you guys out there. So that was kind of that angle. Confirmation 07. There you go. Thank you for the super chat here, first of all. Hey, Brock, we left today and are on the road just outside Salem, Oregon. Thank you for the tips for Sonoma. Thanks for the ticket. Road racing is the best. Yeah, I didn't want to put you on the spot here, but I appreciate you mentioning it there. Yeah, Confirmation 07 was who I sold my ticket to on that one. I'm so glad it went to good use because he and some friends from up in the Northwest came down for the race. I hate that I couldn't meet with you guys there. I went down. I was in your area in turn 9 when I was leaving turn 7 to get to the garage area. I'm looking at the box here, like I'm looking at the person there, but that works. But yeah, hopefully it's just the first of many races that you're going to be doing there, and I'm sure we'll meet up there. And that'll be cool because any opportunities on that. I'm at an interesting point here in a lot of this content here where I feel like I don't really fit in at like the Jeff Gluck, Bob Pockrass tweet up. Like I feel like I can't. I've tried doing that at Phoenix a couple of years ago, but I just didn't. I didn't feel. I just didn't feel like I fit in. So I kind of just now I rather just meet up with people individually, and maybe at some point we'll have a group that'll be big enough that'll be kind of our own thing, or maybe we merge with theirs or whatever. But that's something again. Like I say, I like to keep things pretty loose and informal, and things tend to work out better that way anyway. So, but I'm glad you guys had a great time on that. That was. Again, anybody that could be, interested in the sport and checking things out there. And they were in turn 9, so they had a fantastic view of a lot of the crazy stuff that they have at the end there. Pretty much between turn 7 and turn 11 was where a lot of that race was decided there in the last couple of restarts, including a great run that a lot of them were pulling for Bubba Wallace there in that 14th place run there. That was good to see. So, and true to form, I didn't bring him for my show and tell segment. What I had planned to do, we'll certainly get this shirt here because I was going to, after calling Larson for the 600 pick, of course, then Last Bro wins with Larson here on that day. So he was he's already looking for that shirt in Texas this week. But I did pick up something for 2311 and for Trackhouse. I'll probably be wearing those on future shows. But I got a hat for both those teams, and I picked up a shirt for my mom because she likes the sugar skull pattern the Trackhouse had. So I got that. But I like to support any of these new teams that are coming in there, and it's good to see both of them do well. And again, I'd include the Team Live Fast effort in that effort too. I thought Scott Heckert did a good job keeping all 4 fenders on that thing at the finish. So it's hard to say, given that a lot of other teams and drivers couldn't say that at the same time. Real exciting out there, and good to see a lot of people. Good crowd, but not. I guess the lines weren't as long at the food stands. I mean, that was kind of noticeable, but good crowd there, and everybody was having a good time, and certainly having the local boy win was, of course, the big story from that. So, I guess that's a big part of that. So, if you guys have any other questions on stuff from this weekend, I'll go ahead and just open the floor to you guys here on that. Definitely let me know. I know I only touched on the Xfinity race a little bit. Again, I haven't watched the whole thing, so I can't really comment on too much more than the first few laps between Gregson's DNF and Tommy Joe Martin's having issues there at the same time. I mean, it was good to see some surprising runs again. I mean, Brandon Brown is getting to be less surprising to be in the top 6 there. Alex LeBay and Jade Buford and so forth. But Cody Ware in particular, I mean, I think that was the biggest story. I was hoping that Cody was actually going to be able to make the finish there at Sears Point, because that 15th place run that he had there on Saturday, I think that was tremendous, especially the fact that he spun out at the beginning of the race. Great recovery there. I think he's really improved a lot, just a few starts that he's made, and now trying to run a larger part of the schedule for the first time, especially in the Cup Series. That's no small challenge. So, we'll see what happens. Those are good stories to follow. Eric Almirola still leads the NASCAR Cup Series standings. Stenhouse hadn't finished last yet this year. He had a really difficult year last year. All of the JTG Darty teams did. Of course, Ryan Preece with almost getting 3 in a row or 4 in a row at one point. Just absolutely crazy stuff. But at any rate, we'll go into our trivia segment here. And check this out. Oh, goodness. I got another super chat here. iRacer CB, thank you for the super chat on that. Hey, Brock, just wondering which track you'd like to cover that you haven't been to yet. I'd love to go to Sears Point someday myself. Highly recommend Sears Point, of course. Definitely a good one to check out, if you're able to. So good fans out here. And yeah, I'd be happy to meet you if you ever get out here. Yeah, as the tracks I like to cover, I'm kind of at the point now where I'm looking to just kind of tick tracks off the list. And in the past, the ones that I've decided to do, including this weekend at Texas, were kind of decided because, I had some kind of other arrangement from something before. I wanted to go back out and meet Marty Burke, who was one of the first people I interviewed, rather, for the J.D. McDuffie book. He lives out in Texas, and I'm hoping to meet with him this weekend as part of our trip out there. So I figured we catch the race to kind of make the most of the trip. So that's why we did that. And of course, we did Watkins Glen with the book signing. We did Darlington because we were already out in Canada. We did the Canada race because we were meeting up with Rob. And we didn't get to stay with Rob as much during the Watkins Glen trip, so I wanted to do a full trip with him up there in Canada. And, that kind of figured out, the races from there. Kind of going forward, things are pretty wide open. Definitely want to do Fontana in the spring again, especially if they're going to be tearing up the track and everything. I want to be there for the last run they're going to do in the old track for sure. But Las Vegas is one that we've looked at. We were almost going to do – that was one that was on our tentative schedule last year before the pandemic hit. We were looking at either the March race or the September race. But, of course, we had to change strategy on that. I'd like to do Martinsville because I want to try the hot dogs. That's another reason we did Texas. I hear that Texas is like fantastic food at the track. And, of course, Texas is fantastic food in Texas. So that's not surprising. Kansas is one that I'd like to do. Kansas has had not only some great last place battles, but some great racing in general. And I hear that the development that they've had around the area has been really well. I hear the track is like very state of the art too. So hopefully a track like that would be pretty well suited to the kind of stuff I like to do with the live tweeting of the races, the interviews, the pictures, and all that stuff. So maybe that would be a good option. Certainly Daytona and Talladega. I think we were about to do Speed Weeks a couple of years ago. We couldn't really make that work. Get a scheduling issue on that. But that's kind of one we're looking at. Hard to say there. I mean, we're also still looking to do Phoenix again at the end of this year for the championship race, since we couldn't get into that last year where they did the limited capacity there. So we're looking to make up for that. I guess that's another makeup race we're kind of doing this year. But that's kind of what we're looking at. So yeah, just keeping things open. If they're adding so many new venues, it would be great to do a lot of them. I mean, COTA is interesting, although I think the design of COTA I think might be a little difficult for what I do, because the garage area is blocked by that huge building that blocks the the Parc Fermé or whatever, the Formula One equivalent there. Because you can see when they towed the cars in, they were kind of behind this big wall. And from that view, you couldn't really see anything of the track. Road America would be kind of neat. Our ARCA staff writer, congratulations to him. He's been promoted to our LastCar.info staff writer there. William Saki there covers that race as his home track. And that always looks like a great venue. I'd be willing to do that. So, I mean, again, yeah, I'm kind of going all over the place. Definitely for the top 3 series, because that's been the main thrust of the content that I put on the website. We've done standalone races. We did the Truck Series race in Mosport. And we're going to have Truck and Xfinity do the All-Star thing this weekend. So we've done more standalone or companion events there. So I think that's kind of what we're looking at. And yeah, if there's a lot of you that are in one area, like one track that's going to be a particular fit. If like a lot of you are near Pocono or something like that, I'm down with that. I'd love to do the doubleheader. Get 2 last place finishers in this, for the price of 1. That would be interesting. So yeah, who knows? But I think that any place that's going to be a good battle there would be good. See, there you go, Zachary Leffler. You mentioned Pocono, so there you go. Yeah, that would be that'd be kind of one to see. Hey there, Cindy Fair. Really going to be interesting. Mid Ohio looked good. I mean, from the bits that I've seen there too. But yeah, I think I'm pretty much just going to commit to, again, anything that's in the top 3 series there. So that's kind of the focus. Although I did like the ARCA Menard Series West, and it was cool to. I think Williams' work is maybe kind of look at the ARCA series a little bit more. It's definitely kind of it definitely feels like a LastCar kind of series with a lot of the really underfunded efforts. Your Wayne Petersons, your Brad Smiths, and so forth. Great competitors out there and interesting stories. So it's just great to be trackside anywhere, and it's entertaining the more that I'm doing it now. I love being able to do it out of venue here, and have Sears Point be kind of the central hub, and then kind of branch out here, a couple times a year. It's going to be pretty much 2 other times this year, to kind of see these other venues and get set up shop and do the same thing again. It's fun to do. So hope to have you guys along for the ride wherever we take it. But I'm always open to suggestions. If there's ones that sound particularly good, or perhaps would be really good locations for intense last place battles, I'd be willing to do Bristol again, maybe even the dirt race. We did Bristol in 2007 as fans, and I'd love to do it from the infield there and just be completely surrounded by that. Luckily, I got my earplug headphones there, so I'm sure I'll put those to the test for sure. But we're always open to that one way or the other. So we'll do some trivia questions here, and when you guys are picking your categories, I'll do the show and tell segment here, we'll wrap up the show with that. So we'll do that. So again, for those of you who may be new to the show, here we got a few people here tonight. The categories are NASCAR, pits, teams, tracks, drivers, and the wild card. So those are, again, NASCAR, pits, teams, tracks, drivers, and the wild card. Those are your categories. So go ahead and pick which category you like. Keep in mind, these questions are from the late 90s, so they're going to be a little bit out of date in some cases, but in other cases, unusually difficult. I think, what was that? The Cactus Challenge or the Cactus race? That was the West Series race from before. That was a good one to kind of leave off on going into Sears Point. So that was interesting. So we'll see what kind of questions we get. All right. You get a little hydrated here. The Mafia 100. Yeah, there you go. All right. And that is a ketchup logo on that one. So we got that too. All right. Always a head turner over at the hospital, I'll tell you what. Cactus Clash. That's the one. Okay. So I got a couple die casts here for the show and tell segment. Carl Long video. 2 of these were actually directly used in it. The other one I haven't shown yet. So, of course, the first one, have to lead off with the Carl Long 1997 paint job, the Austin Crackers late model. Very interesting that they actually decided to make this back then. Usually just making, Cup Series and Xfinity Series cars. But, again, and from what I've seen, and correct me if I'm wrong, anyone, I haven't seen any die-cast actually made of any of Carl's cars, which is surprising given how long he's been in the sport and how many different teams he's raced for. Not any of the 46 cars, the 85 cars, or anything like that. But the closest thing you have to it here is this paint scheme, which you, of course, recognize. He pretty much just stayed with this number font and this paint job and stuck with it the rest of, much of his career. The Rockingham flip car pretty much had the same paint job. But, yeah, very interesting detail on this. And it was, certainly an interesting find. And good to see Carl's autograph, the old Racing Champions cards. I miss it when they did die-cast this way, too. But it has interesting details on Carl there on the back too. It's kind of more of a business release for the Austin Crackers company there, showing Carl Long, born September 20th, 1967, 5'10" from Roxborough, North Carolina, the 1997 Port City Rookie of the Year challenger. Austin Quality Foods Incorporated, based in Cary, North Carolina, is in its first year as a team sponsor in the NASCAR Slim Jim All-Pro Series. Austin employs approximately 1,300 associates who bake the top-selling brand of cracker sandwiches in the United States. Carl Long name, signature, and likeness are used by permission of Horizon Motorsports. So there you go. So there's that one. Then, of course, at the end of the video, I showed this one. The subject of our next video, Andy Belmont, the FDP Brakes car from 1992. It says 1993 edition on this, but this was the scheme he ran in 92, the 59 car there. So that was always an interesting paint job there. Again, this is one, we haven't done a throwback scheme to this yet, but we've seen throwbacks to Carl's Austin Crackers car, Stephen Light doing it and so forth. But yeah, this is a paint scheme that really stands out. I mean, running a teal paint job, it's about as 90s as you can get besides, one of those, paper cups with the jazz design on it there. When I was in Deer Valley High School back in Antioch, our colors were like teal and black. So this is kind of a throwback to that a little bit even. So not often you see this car number either too. I'm always partial to diecast where they do like an unusual car number. It seemed like it was a while before they made like a 37 car or a 59 car or anything. But that's an interesting one there too. The other one, and of course, the other thing with Andy Belmont is that he had extensive time in the ARCA series as well. And one thing that's very interesting, and I'll go into this more in the video, is kind of a preview of coming attractions here, is that he was sponsored by Verizon when they were just kind of getting their feet under him in motorsports and in the phone business. And what's interesting is if you look at the quarter panel here, it has a logo on it that says 1-800-USE-THE-VZ. And it's kind of like Verizon at a time where it's like a 1-800-collect period or something. So it's kind of weird that, you would think of a sponsor like that that's as prolific today with cell phones. I mean, this is like 2003, 2003, it says on the back. So, yeah, but again, he brought in this sponsor into racing at a time where, I don't even remember if Verizon had phones back in 2003. I have to do a little corporate research on this one as well. So that's another feature of that. So as you can see, it was autographed too. I found this on eBay a couple of years ago, and an interesting find on that. So that's another one there too. So kind of a little bit of a preview ahead to the next episode there of Rise of the Field Pillars, episode 8, which will be on Andy Belmont. More content on that coming up. I got something very exciting coming up for that series as well too. And as I mentioned in the I think the post video show on Friday, Belmont is actually the driver that I had the 2-hour interview with over the winter. And that's going to be among the content that's going to be used in that. Hopefully, it's not going to be a 2-hour video. I think this will probably be one part, but don't hold me to that because it depends on how much of it I actually put into the video. But we'll get something worked out on that. So, you guys mentioning, yeah, exactly the Keselowski Verizon car. It was interesting when they had the arrangement with Sprint, so they couldn't run the logos on the Cup car. It's weird how all that works out, but it's a business driven sport and. People want to have their own brands involved in it there too. All right. So, okay, what we got here for categories? We got tracks. We got wild card teams. The ones for the Mafia 100 and all that. It seems pretty well split. I got 2 for tracks here. Any other preferences on that? Between the category for the questions, we can jump into tracks if that seems to be the leader here. We got a few votes here. Let me just check in here, make sure I didn't miss anything else here on that end. Okay, that's good. Yeah, tracks on that. Okay. We'll probably do some tracks questions here. Okay, tracks. Okay, yeah, we'll do tracks and jump into that. I guess I'll probably have to bring this with me too. I'll see if I remember to do that. Okay. First question for First question for tracks. What was the first paved track built expressly for Grand National sedans? What was the first paved track built expressly for Grand National sedans? That's the first question. All right, I'm seeing a lot of Darlingtons in the chat. Is that the answer? We'll see. The first paved track built expressly for Grand National sedans. All right, Daytona's and several Darlingtons, and the answer is indeed Darlington, the lady in black. Correct. All righty. Okay. Next question. What brewery sponsored the first NASCAR Winston Cup race at Ontario? Don't look it up. Read it again here. What brewery sponsored the first NASCAR Winston Cup race at Ontario? What brewery sponsored the first NASCAR Winston Cup race at Ontario? Yeah, tricky. They're not coming in as quickly. Mountain Dew, Miller, Molson, Busch, Miller, Milwaukee. Yeah, you never know. What brewery? Brewery. I'm not sure if I'm enunciating that well enough. Sponsored the first NASCAR Winston Cup race at Ontario. Mountain Dew, Molson, Budweiser, Busch. Alrighty. And the answer to which brewery sponsored the first NASCAR Winston Cup race at Ontario was Miller. Miller time. Former now sponsor of Brad Keselowski. Miller is indeed the correct answer. It was first on that. Papa Dragon, I think. Oh, nope. Alexander Luft, I think you were the first one on that one. Looks like. Excellent. Alrighty, next question here. Oh, here's a good one. Here we go. Here's a pre-race ceremonies question. Who gave the start engine command at Las Vegas's inaugural Winston Cup event? Who gave the start engine command at Las Vegas's inaugural Winston Cup event? Yeah, Ontario, California, for sure. Yeah, I can see if you guess like Canadian beer, I can see how that would be it. But yeah, it wouldn't be Ontario, Canada. It was definitely going for the Ontario, California track. Who gave the start engine command at Las Vegas's inaugural Winston Cup event? All right, we got some interesting ones. Britney Spears, Robin Leach, Mike Tyson, Bruce Buffer, Wayne Newton, Michael Buffer, Roy Sigmund. Yeah, Wayne Newton does sound like a good choice. Who gave the start engine command at Las Vegas's inaugural Winston Cup event? And the answer was Richard Petty. Yeah, it's a little anticlimactic, isn't it? Seemed like he would have been a celebrity. It says Richard Petty. Well, that's that's a little surprising. Trick question. All right. Here we go. Here's a tricky one. Now, keep in mind, this question is asking from the late 90s, not today. Question is, what was the last NASCAR Winston Cup event run on Mother's Day? What was the last NASCAR Winston Cup event run on Mother's Day? Yeah, it's a little let down. Yeah, I agree. I think it was going to be somebody else. Command to start engines was given by Michael Buffer. It might have got it wrong. It said Richard Petty. I went back to the question again to make sure it was the right. Yeah, but that's what it said. There we go. See, can I play the audio on this while it's doing it? Hopefully this doesn't screw up the stream. Okay, 1998, Las Vegas. Let's go to the tape. Hopefully, we're still working on getting to the point where we can share screens on this. I'd like to do that in the near future here, but it's still not reliable enough yet. So we'll get there. I guess 99 Vegas 400. Okay, hang on. Let's get to the command on there. Where is it? All right, let's see. Oh, I think that's already after. Yeah. I'll find it in a sec here. Okay, hang on. Okay, so what was the last NASCAR Winston Cup event run on Mother's Day? Guess it's for Rebel 400, Pepsi 400, Daytona, RD Fox 76. You got an interesting one. One of the Darlington races. Petty did the first one. Buffer has done it as well. Sears Point is Michael Buffer. Okay. The answer is the Winston. The Winston. I guess let's talk about the 86 Winston. The last Winston Cup event on Mother's Day. This still feels a little wrong doing it on Mother's Day, but I know we did that this year, but yeah. All right, let me see here. I'm going to go. Okay, I'm just going to try to get the command to start engines here. Let's play it up. Okay.
Every lap.
Hang on. Come on. Where's the command? Gosh, you're just getting vintage throwbacks here on the old ESPN intros. Probably did the command before the broadcast started. Yeah, no, they're already rolling. Because this is the greatest thing with ESPN. Sometimes they would do the command like right when the broadcast started, or like right beforehand. Kind of sounds like it.
Celebration of its 50th anniversary season.
Yeah, I'm not okay. I'm not seeing it here unless somebody has like a satellite feed or something. Yeah, they have a satellite feed at 99, but yeah, I'm not seeing it there. Huh. No, that's different. Okay. Oh, there you go. Yeah. I don't know if somebody has a clip on that. That would be interesting. Okay. Here we go. Let me get. Oh yeah, I saw there was several sources confirmed Buffer did. I have nothing to counteract that with the video. I was hoping the video would show it, but yeah, it's interesting. It's from that time period where ESPN didn't just kind of came on usually afterwards. I think even the a lot of the big market venues had that same issue. Let's see. Let me try it. Here we go. Next question. What track did ISC and Penske jointly purchase from Ralph Sanchez in 1998? What track did ISC and Penske jointly purchase from Ralph Sanchez in 1998? Darlington put a good rating on Mother's Day? Okay, well, I mean, if it works, great. You can't argue with results. I just think it's kind of a quaint thing. It's another nice relic of the sports past that's just, it's going the way of the owner driver and, 48 car entry lists and, broadcasters that, are informative and things of that nature. But who knows? Who knows? All right. We got guesses for Nazareth, Michigan, California, Bristol, Michigan, California, Rockingham, Auto Club. What track did ISC and Penske jointly purchase from Ralph Sanchez in 1998? The answer is Homestead. Homestead. I think that would stump the group. Homestead is the correct answer. I didn't think there'd be a Homestead question on this, but then again, it did have races. It had truck races and bush races in '95, didn't it? Certainly had truck races around that time, or I guess a couple years later. All right. Okay, here we go. Yeah, it was a tricky one. What starting position? Next question. Let's do a couple more here. What starting position at Darlington has won more races than any other? What starting position at Darlington has won more races than any other? Yeah, these are some hard ones. This is a good pick on the category. I know we had some votes for Pitts, too. I mean, I'm sure those are tricky, too. But, yeah. What starting position at Darlington was won more races than any other? Starting position. So, yeah, number, basically. Okay, we got guesses for pole and second and sixth and fifth and 32nd and seventh. What starting position at Darlington has won more races than any other? And the answer we got, okay. This is a stat I'm curious to hear. Me too. I really don't know. The answer is the pole. At least as of this the time this was made. The pole is indeed the correct answer. A lot of you got that one. Pole, I think, yeah, Peter Cohen, I think you were first on that one. Yeah, no surprise. I guess, yeah, not really. I mean, especially pole qualifying used to be really, I mean, it's always crazy at Darlington, but it used to be even crazier. All righty, here we go. Next question. What driver won the lion's share of the first $1 million purse at Phoenix? Let me read that again. What driver won the lion's share of the first $1 million purse at Phoenix? What driver won the lion's share of the first $1 million purse at Phoenix? Yeah, you can chew that one over. Money question. It's throwing a little bit of a loop on this one. RD Fox 76, you're talking about doing the All-Star race at Bowman Gray. Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think it should either be a Bowman Gray or at a dirt track. Be like, and then merge Throwback Weekend into it, so you get best of both worlds. I think you can make the All-Star race real special. I'm going to be interested to see what we get here, but yeah, trying to scroll up here on this. I was talking with my brother there after the race one. He was kind of wondering if Larson was going to get disqualified because last time the 5 car should have won the Sears Point was Ricky Rudd in 1991, and they were playing clips of that before the race. The infamous disqualification there for hard racing, and shoot, there would have been several disqualifications if that rule were in place, given what happened in turn 11 on Sunday. But yeah, finally the Hendrick 5 goes to victory lane there. Given the fact that Gordon was so dominant there, I guess that's a difference there. But yeah, I like the idea of making the All-Star race, make that Throwback Weekend, and do then you could do stage races and do all that crazy stuff. And then because you wouldn't have to change the format. You already have these really, really short sprint races. That's exactly what you want to do on a dirt track, and probably what you want to do on Bowman Gray. So yeah, I think it'd be fantastic. Put me in, coach. I'm ready. All right. What driver won the lion's share of the first $1 million purse at Phoenix? The answer is Ricky Rudd. Ricky Rudd is the correct answer. And now to Alexander. All right, take care, man. We're going to wrap up here pretty soon. For the Cup Series at Wilkesboro or the Rock for the All-Star? I don't know. I'd rather have points races at Wilkesboro or the Rock. The problem with Wilkesboro, and this is something, again, that doesn't get talked about that much, is that a lot of Wilkesboro races had long green flag runs, including that one where Jeff Bodine, lapped the entire field in 94. I mean, it's now if they want to shoehorn in some really, some stupid stages and stuff into it, they could try that. But yeah. Oh, shoot. I guess that one stumped you guys too. Wow. That is tricky. Yeah, dirt track at Charlotte. Again, if you're going to do it to dirt track at Charlotte, then just do it during the same week leading up to the 600. I'm glad that it's a standalone thing for us doing it this weekend. But I'm almost thinking that the All-Star race, if they're going to do it, it should be part of another, kind of like what they did with the Clash, where it's now just a couple days before the 500 instead of its own separate weekend or something. I think they've actually kind of made the scheduling for Speed Weeks a little more attainable if we're looking at doing that one of these days. But we'll see. We'll see. Ooh, throwback to airport racing. That would be interesting. Yeah, go back to that. Do like a Linden Airport kind of thing. That'd be interesting. 92 ran caution free. There you go. I think Jeff Bodine won that one too. All right. Let's see. Okay. All righty. So we'll do one more question here for tonight. Last question for the evening. Who was the first Winston Cup driver to win on Atlanta's new 1.54 mile tri-oval? Who was the first Winston Cup driver to win on Atlanta's new 1.54 mile tri-oval? Don't look it up. Go ahead and guess. Who was the first Winston Cup driver to win on Atlanta's new 1.54 mile tri-oval? It's technically a quad oval. Seeing a lot of Bobby Labontes in the chat. Seeing some Earnhardt. Seeing a Nyom. Seeing Gordon. We'll see. And Dale Jarrett. Who was the first Winston Cup driver to win on Atlanta's new 1.54 mile tri-oval? And you guys got it. The answer is indeed Bobby Labonte. Bobby Labonte is the correct answer. So there you go. 97, I believe, was the reconfiguration because they had that spring race that had all the crazy wrecks, and then they reconfigured the track. Spring Atlanta was pretty wild that year. So thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the show. I apologize for yawning a bit here during it. But yeah, definitely still regrouping from all the craziness this weekend. But I hope you enjoyed following it there on the Twitter account. But there's going to be a lot more to come this weekend now that we're set for Texas. It's going to be very exciting, and I'm going to be excited to bring it to you guys there. So in the meantime, LastCar.info is the website. At LastCar on Brock is the Twitter handle. I guess I'm wearing the hat, so I got that there. Patreon.com/LastCar on Brock if you want some bonus content or some LastCar swag. All that's there. So, look forward to our next video. We'll either be on the road sometime between this next Wednesday and next Monday, or after we return from the races there soon after. And one way or the other, it'll be an interesting all-star weekend. And, hey, we'll put our own interesting spin on it there with our coverage. But, again, big thanks to the folks at the Sonoma and to those of you, to all of you following along with the action there. We'll have a lot more for you going forward. So have a great evening, everyone, and we'll see you next time.